To explain the war between conscious and unconscious, Freud divided the personality into three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is primitive, inborn, unconscious force, like biological drives such as hunger and sex. The superego is the rules and ideals of society and family. The ego is the rational, most conscious part that mediates between the id and the superego. The first thing to know is that these things cannot coexist peacefully. There is a constant conflict between them. The id contains biological drives and is the only structure or personality present at birth. A baby doesn't have an ego. He only feels hunger, and it is wildly biological. You can't reason with a baby's hunger because there is only id. The id wants what it wants now. The id is a monster that wishes to feed. It functions according to the pleasure principle. It is hedonistic. There is tension in our bodies when we are hungry, and eating would release the tension. The superego is the internalized force of the rules and restrictions of family and society. It generates guilt when we act contrary to its rules. The id may cry when you are hungry, but the superego stops you to steal food. The ego is the structure that unites personality. It mediates between the wild id and the prohibitive superego. You are hungry and you mustn't steal food. The ego says, let's go home where there is free food, eh? Intrapsychic conflict means these three structures are in conflict. Freud proposed a sequence of 5 psychosexual stages in a child's life before hitting puberty. Every stage has a different focus on libido. In every stage, child needs to adapt a new developmental phase, and if they fail to adapt, there are different fixations, meaning they are stuck in that stage and may develop dysfunctions. For example, in the oral stage, libido is focused in the mouth, thus the baby seeks breasts to feed. A child can be addicted to tobacco or alcohol in later life if he is fixated in this stage. In the famous Oedipus complex, boy wants to kill the father to replace him as the mother's sexual partner. The boy fears that his father will punish him with castration. In normal development, this anxiety is repressed. The boy gives up his fantasy and instead decides to become like his old man. In girls, there is Electra complex. They fantasize about sexual union with their fathers. Failures in intrapsychic conflict will result in anxiety. There are defense mechanisms against anxiety, 9 of them actually, and these strategies range from primitive to mature ones. The most seriously disturbed individuals, psychotics, use the most primitive defenses, such as denial. Denial is primitive and is a normal defense mechanism among preschool children, but they outgrow this at 7 or 8. When denial continues to adulthood, it is maladaptive because it distorts reality. Reaction formation is the second one. Repressed feelings go way opposite. The 1996 lab experiment by Adams, Wright and Lohr showed that homophobic men with exaggerated anti-gay attitudes had their penises become erect when they watched homosexual erotic films, but non-homophobic men did not. Projection is another defense mechanism. When a person's own unacceptable impulse is attributed to someone else, people with a temptation to harm society may project this feeling into other people. When a man represses the wish to hurt someone, he projects this and blames, say, immigrants. With an unfounded claim, he says immigrants harm society. The next one is displacement. A child who is angry with the father can't acknowledge it. Instead, the aggression may be unconsciously directed toward a brother, which is easier and somewhat more acceptable. Displacement is less primitive than projection because the impulse is correctly seen as belonging to the individual. Only the object is distorted. Identification is borrowing or merging one's identity with that of someone else. Identification functions to overcome feelings of powerlessness. In isolation, thoughts related to some tragedy are disassociated from thinking. A person who has lost a loved one may isolate this experience by not thinking of the loved one ever. Rationalization is giving plausible, believable, but false reasons for action to disguise the true motives. Intellectualization, using intellect to avoid the emotional impact of a tragedy. After diagnosed with an awful illness, one may focus on researching everything about that illness to cure herself, instead of dealing with her emotions. Sublimation is the last and most mature defense mechanism. It is the most desirable and healthy way of dealing with impulses. It is transforming the pain into art.
Why do you paint?
I paint, as a matter of fact, to stop thinking. When I paint, I stop thinking.
About what?
I stop thinking, and I feel that I'm a part of everything outside and inside of me.